We are marching towards draft season. We are inside of 70 days now until the NFL draft. And Bucky Brooks is working around the clock. Therefore, Bucky, I thank you here from NFL Network, obviously, for taking the time. I know you got TA today. Thanks, dude.
Hey, man, what's going on?
Your list is going on. So, Bucky, and this is going to change. Like, you update this throughout draft season. You put out your first top five. So, you have a top five at every position. The quarterbacks, you have Caleb at number one, which obviously everyone knows. Bucky, for those who don't know, played at UNC before going to the NFL. Played for Mac Brown in the first Mac Brown administration in Chapel Hill. Bucky, where do you have Drake Maye?
I may get my Tar Heel card temporarily revoked because right now I have Drake Maye third behind Jayden Daniels in the quarterback landscape. And part of it is due to, if we're going to be honest with the assessment and we're looking at the tape, Jayden Daniels outperformed Drake Maye last season. When you look at what Jayden Daniels did at LSU, you look at how he dominated the game as a passer and as a runner. When you look at his upside and what he could do right now, I have to put him ahead of Drake Maye. When I look at Drake Maye, I know personally, because I know his dad, I know his family, like A1 dude, all the intangibles, great leadership ability, like everything that you could want. But last year, the performance didn't necessarily match the hype. And if we're doing it based off of tape, which is what you want to do, the production from Daniels exceeds the potential and the projection that Drake Maye has right now. And we'll see how it continues to play out as we get to the combine and through pro days.
Do you think that's their draft order? Gosh, I know we're so early. We're 3 months. We're 3 months out here. But do you think it goes Caleb, Jayden, Drake Maye?
You know, like I think a lot of it depends on, one, how does the draft order stay? Do we stay with the Bears, Commanders, and Patriots? I think that'll have an impact. The other thing when it comes to the Commanders and being specific to the Commanders, Drake Maye's former teammate Sam Howell is right there. When Drake Maye entered Carolina, Sam Howell was the star quarterback at North Carolina, and Drake kind of sat and waited and watched while Sam Howell did his thing his final season. Drake took over, had 2 really good years at North Carolina. If it's a situation where you're Adam Peters and you're thinking, okay, we really like Drake Maye, maybe some of the inexperienced stuff kind of bothers us. We have Sam Howell in place. Maybe Sam Howell starts, and when Drake is ready, maybe that's the succession plan. I think there are a few different options when you're at the top, and you're talking about the Commanders in specific. Like, they could take Jayden Daniels because you have a quarterback guru in Cliff Kingsbury who's done things with athletic quarterbacks like Kyler Murray. I think the board is wide open. I think it ultimately comes down to the interview process and who do you feel more comfortable with as the face of the franchise going forward.
All right, and for those who don't know here, Bucky walks the walk here. Bucky, I feel like sometimes when we're talking on NFL Network all the time, like no one reads what we call the tombstone here, like the bottom corner of the screen with your resume. So for those who don't know, Bucky played big-time college football in the ACC. Bucky played in the NFL, multiple positions in the NFL. Bucky was a scout for years on the road in the NFL. He has sat in draft meetings. He's not just some talking head here on TV. All right, so Bucky, you have been through these meetings, you have done these interviews, and obviously now you spend most of your year here prepping for the draft. You have Penix 4 and you have JJ McCarthy at 5. We had on Trevor Sycamore, one of our friends from PFF, yesterday, and he said something which has gotten a lot of traction on social media. It's kind of a bold statement. It makes sense, but it sounds weird when you say it. He said that JJ McCarthy controls the draft. Let me explain. His thing was Caleb, Jayden, Drake Maye, as we just discussed, or Caleb, Drake Maye, Jayden, 1 through 3. Let's say they go 1 through 3. That JJ McCarthy, in his eyes, was clearly 4. And if you can't get up into the top 3, and you're one of those QB-needy teams, then the rush to get JJ McCarthy is on. Do you buy that?
Potentially. I think he is the mystery of the draft. He's an X factor, right? And the reason why he's the mystery is because you watched him win a ton of games at Michigan, but you never really saw him as the driving force of their offense. They ran the ball. They did a bunch of good things with their defense. So he just kind of managed the game. And at a time where game managers is kind of a polarizing term, he did a really good job in that vein. However, when you talk to the people around Michigan and they talk about his athleticism and how he moves and you watch him spin it, look, he can throw it with the best of them. You just haven't seen him have to do it in games. It reminds me a lot of Justin Herbert when Justin Herbert was having that final season at Oregon and you wanted to see more and you really didn't see it until the end, the Pac-12 championship game and then the Rose Bowl where you saw him kind of utilize kind of all of his talents and tools. We haven't seen that from JJ McCarthy, but man, he's really intriguing because size-wise, athleticism, arm talent, leadership ability, and then just winning, he checks off a lot of boxes. And when it compares to Michael Penix and Bo Nix, he's kind of the mystery that he hasn't been around enough. We don't know, but man, what he could be makes you maybe take a chance on him over those guys who played a long time in college.
And again, he is kind of a wild card here. And yeah, I mean, if you like him better than Penix, I mean, most people see McCarthy in the first round, don't necessarily see Penix in the first round. Bo Nix, I know you have him as kind of a wild card there as your sixth quarterback, also in the conversation. Talking to Bucky Brooks, his list is up on NFL.com, the top 5 at every position, at least the preliminary view here 3 months out. You have Brooks, Benson, Corum, Irving, and Estime from Notre Dame as your top 5 backs. We don't see a first-round pick there, right?
No, not a first-round running back. I think for years we talked about devaluing running backs. This year, I think the value is appropriate. I don't believe there's a first-round pick in the bunch.
Okay, you and Daniel Jeremiah on the Move the Sticks podcast always talk about traveling together, meaning players are rated closely or ranked closely on draft boards and that they're going to be part of the same conversation throughout this entire process. I think it's going to surprise people that you guys have Rome Odunze right up there, the kid from Washington, with Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people will be surprised until they really look at the Washington standout. Odunze is a great player. I think you can liken his game to the game that you see from Jamar Chase in terms of just an overwhelming physical presence, plays with physicality and ruggedness on the perimeter, outstanding ball catcher, can win contested catches down the field, just kind of utilizing his leaping ability or just physically overpowering people. Terrific with the ball in his hands after the catch. The comparison to me with Jamar Chase is about that. Jamar Chase isn't necessarily the route runner. He's the playmaker. I kind of see Rome Odunze in that vein. With Marvin Harrison Jr., there's been a lot of fanfare and hype around his play and production over the past 2 years. He is a terrific route runner. He does have great pedigree. Obviously, a Hall of Fame dad who did it for a long time in the league. He can do a bunch of special things. However, I kind of see him kind of like Larry Fitzgerald, like just solid overall player that can kind of win as a number one in a few different lanes. I think the trick will be, let's see what these guys look like when they run at the combine. Let's see what they look like when it comes to running routes. I think the conversation is a little closer between those guys vying for number one than I think we've talked about for most of the regular season heading into draft season.
Fascinating. The rest of the list there for that Bucky has on NFL.com at wideout. You got the 2 LSU guys, Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas, 3 and 5, and Keon Coleman. Obviously, how fast he runs is going to be a storyline in 2 weeks in Indianapolis. He is sitting there from FSU at number 4. Brock Bowers, Jatavian Sanders, I think clearly above and beyond everyone there at tight end. Cade Stover's in the conversation. The offensive tackles, Bucky, this kind of reminds me, and your rankings, by the way, Joe Alt, Notre Dame, Olufashanu from Penn State, number 2, Taliesi Fuaga from Oregon State, the right tackle at 3, Mims from Georgia at 4, and then J.C. Latham from Bama at 5. Bucky, does this remind you a little bit of 2020 when it was Wirfs and Thomas and Wills and Becton? And I think a lot of teams, they certainly had preferences, but a lot of them were just like, I'm cool with one of those guys, but they're all going to go reasonably early.
I think it's a really good offensive tackle class, and I think there are more names. The bad part about doing a top 5 list, it doesn't mean that you get all the first rounders or potential first rounders that could come off the board. But when you look at the class from top to bottom, just rock solid guys that are plug and play guys that have length, guys that have the physicality and toughness to move people off the ball in the run game, but they still have the patience and nimble feet to be able to do it in the pass game. I think if you're stuck in, and when I look at this draft class, ton of wide receivers, ton of offensive tackles, there are a few edge guys, and then it's loaded at cornerback. Those are the strengths of this year's draft. So depending upon where you're picking and what you need, you can get those guys early, or you can say the depth of the class is going to make it where I can circle back around and get them in the second and third round and address a weaker position. There's a lot of flexibility in that. The thing that everyone has to know, not only when it comes to offensive tackles and those things, I think a lot of people around the league will tell you that the draft falls off tremendously once you get to the fourth round or below. The lack of juniors entering the draft, the overall I would say the eroding effects of COVID and the way that it kind of separated all the classes has weakened the depth in this class. So you may see a lot of people punt on their late round picks, accumulate more picks for future years, because this year's draft is kind of top heavy when we talked about the totality of the draft, not necessarily the depth that we've had, but the offensive tackle class is outstanding.
And let me put an exclamation point on that. We mean that this year more than any other year. You hear that sometimes, oh, this is not a deep class, like, don't see many day three guys we'd want to draft at all. Mm-hmm. There are so many 6-year guys in this draft. So many guys that should have been in the draft that went back to school. Just so many guys with 3 transfers and older players. This is one of those odd drafts where you're going to see a lot of teams on day 3 trading down and trading out and punting until next year. Bucky, I know you got an HBCU combine coming up. You got a lot of stuff in New Orleans as well, but just fast forward to Indianapolis here. Give me one guy that you are looking forward to seeing work out, whether it's run, jump, spin it, 3-cone. Let's get the 3-cone geeks in here. Anything, one guy that you're like, hey, when we get out of Indy, everybody is going to be talking about that guy and what he did working out.
Okay, we're going to talk about Daniel Jeremiah's pet cat, Quinyon Mitchell, the cornerback from Toledo. And the reason why I'm excited to see him work out, because I didn't get a chance to see him up close and personal at the Senior Bowl. But the buzz coming out about the Senior Bowl was he not only looked like he belonged, but he looked like he might be the best guy there. And if he is the best guy there, then he's going to have a opportunity to be the best guy at that position. I mean, this is a kid who's long, he's explosive, he's done it for a long time. You look at the production, the on-ball production in terms of breakups and all those things, he has that. The one thing that you want to see when you talk about a guy from like a mid-major, that's what they would call it in basketball, a mid-major program, let's see what he looks like against the big boys. But we had a chance to see that at the Senior Bowl. Well, now you want to see him work out. If he puts on a wow performance at Indianapolis, oh man, lights out. You talk about how soon this guy could go. You talk about top 15, top 10. He has an opportunity to go sky high in the draft, and it just would be kind of the accumulation of this guy just checking off all the boxes throughout the process.
I mean, he has a chance to go ahead. You think he's got a chance to be the number one corner? I do. Like ahead of Arnold and Wiggins, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. I think that explosiveness that he could display could certainly make it where people are very, very comfortable with him being the number one corner in the draft.
And Bucky, I know you weren't there. You were in Dallas at East West, but the battles between Mitchell and Roman Wilson, the Michigan wideout, those were fun.
Oh, yeah. Good wideout. Good wideout for Michigan. And it's a great test because he's a route runner. And so when you can see guys that can go nose to nose and cover route runners, those are the hardest guys to defend in the league. That gives him a chance to have a lot of success as a pro.
Bucky, I'm for Chris Brockman over here as we say goodbye. I didn't even bring up until now the Syracuse-Carolina game from Tuesday.
I don't even remember that. We've already turned the page. Our eyes are forward. We're already on. Yeah, we're on to the next. We can't sit there. Rich. Andrew, if you sit there and drive looking in the rear view, you're gonna crash. We're on. We're looking out. We're going.
Two hands on the wheel. Hey, you know what? It's okay. Hey, you lose by 36, and then you come back and you beat them the next time.
I mean, look, man. Look, you should give a warning that you're gonna play the zone. They've sworn off the zone. They said, "Oh, we're a man-to-man team. We put that left with Jim Boeheim," and then they decide that they want to break out the 2-3 zone. Catch my guys completely off guard. Can't shoot. We can't do anything. The game is all slow and muddy. It's like an old Big East game. I didn't know what I was looking at. I was waiting for Pearl Washington to run out.
Yeah. You had Adrian Autry instead. I mean, just Bucky, actually all three of us, what hit me watching that game was like we're aging. It's like Adrian Autry and Hubert Davis coaching the game, and
Crazy,
it's like,
right?
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
I know. I mean, Hubert Davis was there when I was there. Like, not quite a classmate, but almost. I mean, geez, I remember when the Dean Dome used to yell "Hugh" when he used to hit threes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's crazy.
It's wild.
My God.
College basketball is still fun. You just got to go look for it. That's all. And also, you should go look for Bucky's list. It's on NFL.com right now. Top 5 at every position, which Bucky will update. He'll update after the combine, update after the pro days, and Bucky will be there all the way on NFL Network and NFL.com for those pro days and for the combine as well. Bucky, travel safely. Appreciate it. I know you're busy today, man. See you soon.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Bucky Brooks, everybody.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.